Hello and welcome to another knitting pod. I am Lena and I'm so glad you're here. Hopefully you're up to chat about some knitting today. It is almost Thanksgiving here in the United States. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm really tired, you guys. I was single parenting all week. My husband was traveling for work and it is an exhausting thing being responsible for absolutely everything. And I think, honestly, the dogs are more exhausting than the children. But anyway, that is neither here nor there. But I was very close to just letting myself knit instead of tape a podcast. But since it's Thanksgiving next week and I will be away, I didn't want to be gone for 2 weeks without chit-chatting at least a little bit. So you'll forgive me if this episode is shorter than usual, and maybe you're cheering that it's shorter than usual because sometimes I can go on and on. But we're going to try to keep it tight and fun today. I've got some new projects to share with you. So if you've been watching, you know I've got a couple of projects that have been on my needles, and I just gave my friend the baby blanket that I made her, and she absolutely loved it. And actually, she's in labor right now as I speak. There might be a new baby in this world right now if she's given birth. So I cannot wait to get more info on that. But once that was off the needles, I told you guys last week, I really wanted a new cast on that was just a gift to myself for, just making it through life, because life is hard and exhausting in the best of times. So I wanted to cast on the Bavaria Shaw, as I shared last week with you guys. And I had the yarn. I had my gorgeous Mean Mr. Mustard, which I have all wound up finally here. This is from Green Mountain Spinnery. It is a DK weight wool, just very woolly wool. I love it so much because it has that texture and feel of real wool. But once I purchased the Bavaria Shawl pattern and I looked at it, I realized it said you need worsted weight. And I really think DK weight would have been completely fine, which again, that's what this is. But it just got into my mind because I did not want, what I loved about this shawl was the epic scope of it. I really wanted just a huge, heavier weight shawl. I didn't want it to end up too small. And so I decided, since this is like a gift knit to myself, I really got it in my head that I wanted to hold a strand of matching mohair with it. So I was all ready to go and just dying to cast on something new. But then once I had it in my head that I needed some mohair, I couldn't cast it on. That was, I think, Sunday, which was really busy. We had lots of kids stuff going on this weekend. And I had a suspicion that Lula Faye, one of my local yarn shops, had the Knitting for Olive in the mohair in the color I wanted. I've been there many times and seen lots of mohair and matching fingering weight yarn, etc. And I thought they had it, but I just didn't have the energy to drive down there. So long story short, I had plans to go downtown on Wednesday anyway, so I stopped in there and all the stars were aligned and they had it. I was so incredibly excited. You guys know, well, maybe you don't. I love Knitting for Olive. Their color range is unbelievable. If you love mustard, they have 5 different shades of mustard. If you love turquoise, they have so many turquoises. But there was one mustard that I knew would be perfect, and they had it. I was over the moon. It was meant to be. So without further ado, here it is. Isn't it just the most perfect combination? I think it's just so absolutely stunning, and it just feels like butter. I finally cast it on, and it's just a tiny little thing, a tiny little baby. Here it is. It starts off with this really nice garter panel, which I love because it just gets you kind of going, right? Like, you're not jumping in with anything crazy. You're just getting used to the fabric. And I'm not going to lie, I love a good garter stitch shawl because there's this squishiness that happens with garter stitch that doesn't with stockinette. I think stockinette looks so beautiful with those V's, those smooth V's, but there's something about garter that is so stunningly beautiful, and I'm really loving knitting it. One thing I will say is I have never knit a strand of worsted held together with mohair. I've only knit mohair held with fingering. And I think my expectations had to be adjusted because when you hold fingering weight with mohair, the size of those two strands is basically comparable. So you're getting a lot of fluff in that piece. Whereas when you were holding it with the worsted weight strand, the worsted weight is so much thicker than the mohair that this is still going to be much more dominant in the fabric that you're creating. So the fluff level is just, it's not like a giant halo like it was in that hat I wore last week, which is a fingering weight, just a single strand with mohair, and the mohair just was like floofed up everywhere. This is a much subtler halo. Like, I'm gonna try to show you. I think that angle you can sort of see. It's much more subtle, which I'm okay with. I actually think it's beautiful. I don't know that the camera really picks up the halo, but it is definitely there. I really did not want to carry a strand of mohair that wasn't really on point on the color because I loved this color so much, and I thought if it was too dark or too light, it was going to take away from that tone that I just love, which is, to me, on my skin tone, like a really neutral color, I think. So anyway, if you are just going to go nuts, you could definitely hold 2 strands of mohair, but I couldn't justify buying that much mohair. I was already like kind of felt like of an overindulgence. But as this is a shawl that I will be knitting through the holidays, I felt like it was just my gift to myself, and I love it. I think I need to get to like 120 something stitches on the needles before the textured panel starts, and I'm very excited about that. There's bobbles, there's cables, there's all sorts of, and not cables like a traditional weaving cable, it's like these diagonal lines. Anyway, I'm really excited about it, and I'm really enjoying it. I haven't gotten to knit as far as I would normally have gotten because, like I said, I was desperate for a new cast on. So my husband was going out of town and he was leaving on the weekend, which just is such a downer. You know, it's so, your weekend is your time to just be together as a family and really enjoy some sort of downtime together. And so when he left, it was just really depressing. So I really, really wanted a new cast on. And what I wanted was a hat. I love casting on hats because they're just these really quick projects that just, they can be either completely autopilot, like a really simple hat, like the wide rib hat by Pearl Soho. That's my total go-to. I love that hat because it gives you a nice ribbing across the brim, but then the rest of the crown is stockinette. So you're just going round and round and knit stitch, and it's just pure relaxation, and it's a worsted weight, so it's like done in no time. But also you can, if you're craving something, like if you're craving cables or something like that, you can find a gorgeous hat and get like this bite-sized chunk of whatever technique you feel like indulging in and have a project off the needles in a week or two. I personally was really craving color work. Y'all know, if you've been watching, I'm knitting the heirloom quilt cardigan, which is color work flat. And I've really enjoyed those squares, but color work flat and color work round are just so different. And I was just craving a color work hat in the round. I don't know why, but that's just what I was feeling. So I narrowed it down from many, many hats to 2 hats that were just about as polar opposite as you could get. One was Gudrun Johnson. Is that her name? Johnson? Anyway, I'll put it down, I promise. She has this gorgeous hat. Of course, the name escapes me. Again, I will add it here. This hat is stunning. And what to me just was, I was totally sold on this hat, was the corrugated ribbing. I love it. I think it is the most like visually stunning. It gives like a brioche effect because you're using 2 colors. It gives a brioche effect without doing brioche, and I just love it. And I thought it was just such a gorgeous hat. The 2 downsides of it that ended up leading to me not picking this hat were, I couldn't figure out a color palette that I loved with yarn I had in my stash, and I really wanted to use stash yarn because this hat uses really small quantities of yarn, and I knew, like, I have so much fingering weight yarn. I just couldn't quite nail a color palette that I loved. And number 2, it felt very in line with everything I've been knitting, or everything that's on my needles, kind of very muted and serious. And I was sort of feeling like I missed the energy of that baby blanket, which was playful and colorful and had a sense of humor about it, if that makes sense. If you could if you could characterize knits as having a sense of humor, which I totally do. So anyway, I went with a different pattern. I went with the Positivity Beanie by Tori Yu, and I cannot tell you what a joy it has been. I decided that this is the energy I needed. Like, let me just show you and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. This is the hat. Now, it's a little hard to show you because it's on the needles and it's all, it's color work that hasn't been wet blocked yet, but it's these smiley faces, both right side up and upside down. And I need a hat with a bunch of smiley faces on it, okay? I need to look in the mirror and see my entire head covered in smiley faces, because it's just the kind of time of year I feel like I need to keep it light. And I have this one baseball cap that I often wear when I'm sad. It has this huge smiley face on it. And sometimes when I really need a pick-me-up, I put it on because it just reminds me every time I look in the mirror that I can choose to be happy. I can choose to be in this moment and not let everything around this moment pull me down. Do you know what I mean? It has just been more fun than anything has a right to be. So I will stick a picture up of her. First of all, she's stinking adorable. I just love her so much. She's so, so, so cute. And I love her designs, and I've never knit anything by her. She did it in a solid color, and then her smiley faces are white. My thing, like I said, I did not want to buy new yarn. And also, I had plenty of hot pink yarn that I could have used, but you guys know I have so many hot pink things. Like, pink is not in short supply in my life. So I just wanted to experiment and be brave and kind of step out of my color comfort zone. And I have so much fingering weight yarn. I was going through my stash, kind of trying to figure out what appealed. I knew I wanted it to be bright and bold. Some of the versions I saw in Ravelry were like muted and they were so, so cute. But I personally wanted something bold and crazy. So I had 2 balls of this. This is Linen Quill by Pearl Soho in the colorway Cobalt Blue. I had 2 balls of this left over from the library blanket I made my son a couple years ago. And let's be honest, like, I don't love this color. This is just not a color that I'm like, yes, that's it. That Smurf blue is where it's at. I need a Smurf blue hat. Never have thought that in my life. However, this is what I love about being like constrained by your stash. I thought, why not? Okay, I have 2 balls of this. When am I going to use this? It's a hat. It's not like a huge investment of time like a sweater or something like that. Even socks to me is more of an investment because you have to make both socks. A hat is just like, to me, just like the ultimate little boom, super fun. So I just thought, you know what? The more I saw these 2 colors together, I thought they look fun and cute, and it's bold and neon, but it's different. It's not expected. It's just different. So I thought what I was going to do is just like her, I was going to use the color for the entire background and then just do the smiley faces white. I did the brim, and then when I got to the right length, I thought to myself, like, it just struck me suddenly, like, how funky and cute would it be if I made the brim contrast and the smiley faces match the brim rather than the whole hat? I don't know. It just like, it was like thunderstruck, and I was just like, totally knew that's what I wanted to do. So that is what I did. And I love it. It is so much fun. I just love it so much. So the one thing I will say I changed is she has you knit 4 inches and then double the brim and knit the brim and everything together so that it would be a fixed. So I'm trying to show you. It would be fixed like this. So we would tuck it inside and it would be fixed. And I think that looks really cute. I had just a hesitation because I read one person's Ravelry project where she said when she did that, she felt like the brim got looser. And I always struggle with my hats being too loose. So I decided I kind of liked the idea of just having a regular brim folded up. I think it adds kind of dimension and some flexibility. If I don't like that, at the end, I can go back and knit this cast on border to the inside, and I could just stitch it and it would be totally fine. But I don't anticipate doing that. I really do like a folded brim. I think it looks really cool. Other modifications, I dropped in needle size just because I'm such a loose knitter, especially with color work. I think I get really loose. So I dropped down, I don't even remember the number. I love these shorty needles for hats. Magic loop for hats is just not my favorite thing. I think I've talked about that before. I always get some laddering, and there's just more like flipping and flopping. I just like being able to just go in the round, especially with color work. When I started this pattern, when I started this color work section, it's been a minute since I did regular color work, and I felt very wobbly on my color work feet. It took me a minute to get my rhythm. I kept trying to figure out, like, do I want to hold both strands in my left? Do I want to hold one in each? I kept experimenting with that, but I landed on both strands in my left hand, which is how I've knit in the past when I do color work, and totally found the rhythm and the kind of, I was going to say pattern of the pattern, but do you know what I mean? Like the way that the color work is, I just, after the first couple of, like the first smiley face section, it sunk in, and since then I've just been tearing through it. I cannot stop knitting it. It's so much fun. I really hope it fits. I hope it's not too big because I just don't know why my hats are always too big, but alas, that is just how it is. Also, this is stash yarn. This is high country wool in an undyed merino blend of some sort. I think there might be some alpaca or something in it. It's such a lovely yarn. I was worried because if you can believe, The linen quill is slightly thicker than this. Linen quill is a very light fingering weight, but this is even lighter. So I was a little bit concerned that the smiley faces wouldn't pop, but I do not think that's a problem at all. I think they pop plenty. I really would love to finish this weekend if possible. This is the last round before the decreases, so I really think I can. I can't put it down. I couldn't sleep this morning. I woke up at 4 and I couldn't sleep, and the minute I was doing that thing where I was lying in bed just looping everything that was stressing me out to absolutely no productivity, like it's just completely self-defeating. And I just thought of my beanie and I jumped out of bed. Like, I'm not going to mull on anything. I'm just going to work on my smiley face beanie. And it was a glorious hour and a half, before I had to get up and do other things. But I don't know if you guys feel like this, not to go off on a tangent, but I wish I could reliably wake up like at 4:45 and give myself an hour and a half before the kids wake up. The only reason I don't is because I feel like sometimes my sleep can be so unpredictable. Like sometimes I don't sleep well, and then the last thing I want to do is wake up that early. But those are my favorite days. Even if I'm a little tired, like I'm not going to lie, I feel like a zombie right now a little bit. But I love those days, that peaceful time to just be and have quiet time to yourself before everything starts up. It's the best. It is the best. And it's Friday, and it just felt like such a lovely way to start my Friday. So if you too need a burst of happiness, I think you should cast on the Positivity Beanie, y'all. She also has the Positivity Socks. So stinking cute. I cannot even stand it. But I'm just more of a hat person. I think it's just such a style cheat almost. Like when I put a cute beanie on that I've made or a cute knit hat, I feel like my best self. Like I'm expressing myself, and it's just easy. Like I could literally be wearing this sweatshirt, which is my favorite sweatshirt, by the way. I could be wearing this sweatshirt and a beanie and like still feel like, I don't know, like my cutest self. Do you know what I mean? I think you do. I think you know what I mean. But anyway, this might be the shortest podcast I have ever released, but I'm not kidding. I'm really, really tired. I have lots of things I could go into about life, but I'm too tired to, you guys. I really, really am too tired to. I will hopefully do that on the other side of Thanksgiving. Like I said, it's Friday. Thanksgiving is next Thursday. We're headed back to Texas. I am, anytime you've got travel, it's always stressful, and you just feel like there's all these moving parts and all these things you need to get done before you go and when you're there. And anyway, I just feel a little bit overwhelmed, as the holidays tend to be. But I'm very much looking forward to being with my family and really enjoying a good solid chunk of time with everybody and eating a ton of Tex-Mex and Thanksgiving food. So that is where I'm going. I hope you have a lovely Thanksgiving if you celebrate. If not, you probably don't know what I'm talking about very much. And in that case, have a lovely weekend. But either way, I hope you gift yourself knitting time. I think, I'm just so grateful to have a way to give myself a treat that's so healthy. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like I'm taking care of myself when I give myself a chunk of time to knit on something that I'm really dying to knit on. It just feels like my favorite way to give myself a little gift. So I hope you gift yourself the time of knitting, and I will see you in 2 weeks with hopefully lots of progress and a cute new hat to show for it. Okay? Have a lovely day. I'll see you next time. Bye.